Good Monday. This is Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew. Well, last week we looked at a S&B top 15th percentile bank. We looked up what makes a top 15th percentile bank. And we've had bankers come in this week asking, how can I get up into that top 15th percentile? Well, it depends. And what we wanted to do was to show an example of a bank that I believe, if they laid out the proper strategy, would definitely be in the top 15th percentile. In fact, right now you can see their total risk is right around 49.7 based upon the Seafried and Brew total risk index. Total reward at 50.2. Once again, both in that sort of median type category, producing an S&B percentile ranking compared to all banks across the United States in the 49th percentile. So average. When you look at their overall performance, they're in the 49th percentile for return on assets, return on equity in the 63rd percentile, just touching high performance in terms of that ROE. But we look at net interest margin. This bank has a high performing net interest margin in the 65th percentile. And one of the keys we talked about last week in terms of what makes a top 15th percentile bank is cash type deposits. The checking, the savings, and the now. Blue line being our sample bank, orange line being the national, green dotted line, this particular bank's state in terms of cash type deposits. So when we look at cash type deposits, this bank is at 72%. You can see that it has been a growing trend, which is very positive because that produces that high level of net interest margin due to the fact you can see their cost of interest-bearing deposits less than the state and national average. So that's step one in terms of being in that top 15th percentile and being able to do it. Well, with such a great net interest margin, why aren't they up even higher in terms of performance? It's net overhead. Net overhead, you can see they're actually below average in the 62nd percentile. And once again, that's where you don't want to have a higher percentile type ranking. So when we look at their overall net overhead, they really could concentrate on bringing it down. So in this example, their net overhead is right around 2.2%. Let's set a strategy. Let's get that net overhead down to 1.8% over the next 3 years. Let's do it in terms of increasing non-interest income. Let's do it in terms of reducing non-interest expense. And on an overall basis, what would that do? Amazingly enough, if we get down to 1.8% in terms of net overhead, we're looking at ROA in the 91st percentile. ROE in the 95th percentile. So once again, a strategy for this particular bank will propel it into the top 15th percentile of all community banks, even the top 10 percentile of all community banks across the nation. But let's not, with this bank, also forget taxes. Taxes, once again, they're in the 50th percentile, so they're just average in terms of their tax efficiency. Well, what if we just concentrated on tax efficiency? That wouldn't quite bring them into that top 15th percentile, but you can see that it does move the needle. So right now, they're in the 59th percentile compared to before they did the strategy being in the 49th percentile. So it does have an impact in terms of tax efficiency. Just think, what would it be like if this bank had both net overhead at 1.8% and tax efficiency? Think they would be in the top 5 percentile of all community banks in the nation. So it can be done. One can put the strategy in the place to make yourself in that top 15th percentile. You just need to do it. This is Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew. Have a great week.